Welcome to 340. This is not a podcast about achieving intimacy. It's about allowing it. About the moments where the body softens before the mind understands. About safety, presence, and the courage to be felt by ourselves first. Today I'm joined by Wren Morrow. Wren is an outdoor boudoir photographer whose work lives at the intersection of nature, embodiment, and reclaiming pleasure beyond shame. Raised in a world shaped by purity culture, Wren chose a different path, one where cedar grows, open air, and the living body become places of safety rather than hiding. This conversation isn't about being seen, it's about returning. Today we'll be discussing her journey and what it takes to be seen, to live, and live to the fullest. Wren, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Excited to see this conversation and where it goes.
Super. So before we speak, how are you arriving today in your body?
A little tired. Stayed up a little too late last night. But feeling really like nourished and enriched by, I don't know, the mysteries that keep tugging at me and pulling me in. So while yes, the body is a bit tired, but the spirit is quite alive. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a different time zone than you are, so I've had my day so far, and it's been a quite intense day with a lot of good conversations, and I've done a lot of writing today. Did also more deep research on you, which was very interesting. And I feel energized. I think that's a good way to put it.
Amazing.
So I was just thinking as well. So you're in the Oregon in the US on the East Coast, right?
I'm in Washington on
Washington.
The West.
Washington on the West Coast.
Yeah, I can actually see Canada across the water. Through the
then you're
window.
very close. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's very close. And with that, you have winter, I guess, around the corner.
Supposedly, it's been very, today is cloudy, but for the past week, it's been remarkably sunny, quite warm in the 50s Fahrenheit.
It's fairly, well, a bit mild, I guess, for winter.
Very mild. I've been like trail running in a t-shirt.
Oh,
It's like not been raining. It's really been a treat. And I think all of us Pacific Northwesterners are like, wait, sun still? Like we're all just like basking in it.
so but what does slowing down for winter normally means to you then beyond rest?
I feel like winter is for dreaming. It's for understanding lack. It's, yes, there's rest, but I think, summer's there, very busy, fall's there's a bounty, and winter comes and we are left with, with just what we have left, and that lack, if you sit with it, creates a bit of longing, a bit of dreaming, a bit of understanding the contrast between what you have and what you desire. And it's too soon to really like take action on it. And so if you allow that process to be slow, those desires start to actually refine and become more clear. So, at first, maybe it looks one way, but you sit with it a little longer, lack with it a little longer, and realize, that's not really what I wanted. What I really wanted is this. And actually, that isn't even it. And you just keep breaking it down to its like truer and truer form. And then anchor into the dream of that in its fullness and get to use that for a North Star when the energy comes back online and we're able to manifest with more ease.
Yeah, and then when spring comes, you're embracing the energy a lot better.
You got a vision.
You get a vision, exactly. Beautiful. So, I mean, you obviously have a very interesting line of work in terms of your profession and what you do, and I think the more interesting thing is also how you arrived to it, more so than what you want to do there. So, do you want to tell the listeners a bit more about your own journey and a bit more what you do, but how you arrived there a bit more?
I mean, I arrived here rather, almost accidentally. It's just a matter of following what opened to me, not pushing anything too hard, but actively participating and seeing what doors opened. I am an outdoor boudoir photographer, which the word boudoir is French for bedroom or like a lady's room, but has become known as a style of photography of women in their lingerie, would probably be the simplest way. And so for me to do it outdoors is a little like contradictory of the word itself, but it evokes a certain understanding of what it is that I do. I started my life in a much more conservative way. I was raised incredibly Christian, with parents who really sought to protect me from the world, homeschooling me, keeping me in like very, very censored environment, which had its pros and cons, of course, but then I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I was there for Jesus. I ended up becoming a youth pastor, was married to the worship pastor, was very involved in the church and understanding God's will for my life. And a lot of that was the dogma of it is the disempowerment of women. I was trained to be a very good girl, which meant being submissive to my husband, letting him make all of the decisions, needing to never make my own thoughts or have my own voice, but always kind of like relinquishing my power in order to be obedient, whether it was to God or to my husband or just to the men in general.
Surrendering more or less, it sounds like, right?
Yes. Yeah. It was submitting, I would say.
Submitting.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Submitting. Yeah.
Surrender to me, I feel is more of like a conscious release and softening.
No,
where submitting is like, I do not agree, but I shall concede.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oof.
When I was 24, which was 10 years ago, I realized this modality was not working for me, that I was incredibly unhappy despite trying my entire life to follow God's plan and be the best Christian I could be. And I changed my mentality. I just was like, God, we can't talk right now. I need to figure some things out on my own. And in doing that, started to understand this thing of God as a more expansive truth, fabric, consciousness that wasn't sitting there with a rule book for me, but actually wanted me to interact with it. That God wasn't up there with this plan for my life that I was needing to figure out and never stray from, but rather the universe seemed to be this dancing, playful, interactive force that I could have an idea and throw it out there and it would throw it back and or open or soften or lead me or close the door, but it wasn't sitting there with like a rigidity where I was trying to find the one path of the million of options for me, and instead was able to have an idea and see if it liked it, see if it showed with its opening that I was on the right track. And through that, I ended up in Italy. I came back to Tennessee. I ended up moving to the West Coast. I start living in a van with a musician, and we are spending all this time outside and in nature. And that is when the true magic started to happen, when I was spending all of this time in rich, wild places. The etymology of the word wild is full of one's own will.
Mm.
And so when I talk about wild places, I'm not talking about places that have nature in them, that have trees growing, but I'm talking about places that haven't been so fidgeted with by humans, that have learned how to grow and be in relationship with the cohabitants and grow from a will to exist and a want to participate in the grand fabric of life, rather than a landscaper decided that a tree would be nice here. And not that life will burst forth where it's given the opportunity, but there's just something different about these places that are more untouched.
So when did you first sense then that the body held truth that words didn't?
Oh my goodness.
Because it feels like
sensing it for several years in like the 2017, 2018 realm, but like starkly confronted with it in 2020. Really got an understanding of the complex, immensely intelligent spaceship that our consciousness is sitting inside of in the form of our body.
It's a nice, I think the body is a fantastic vessel to do things, right? And then what you can do with it is quite amazing.
Yes. And what it does for you, in 2020 is when I started really getting into fascia work. And the more I released my fascia, the more blood flow and movement was like allowed throughout my body. And I started encountering secrets that my body had been keeping from me, pockets of grief that it had said, and it said to me, you weren't ready to deal with this the moment you encountered it, but if you'll let me, I'll help you move through it. And I surrendered to it and literally like did a dance. It literally danced its way out of my body in a really profound way, and was a bit mischievous in its way of letting me know that, I'm like, aren't I smart? I like hid this from you because you were a child and you couldn't handle it. But like, if you're willing, and realizing that I had asked it to, like it was me saying, I can't deal with this. The body was like, okay, no problem. I'll take that and I'll store it in your hip, and
you suppress it basically, right? Let's suppress this for a while and get on.
Okay. And so it asked for my consent to unrelease, or like to release it.
But it's beautiful that you found that key to unlock that, basically, right?
Yes. So I'm going to move slightly because this window light is.
That's a beautiful way. Okay.
Yes.
But you mentioned about your upbringing as well. That was very conservative in one way, right? So what did that culture sort of teach you to distrust? And is there anything in that sort of helped you to begin to listen again? Sorry, I'm giving you all these profound questions.
No, I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I think in its own way, it was letting me know just how powerful my body was. In its desperate attempts to bind and control and me,
Yeah.
it was in its own way informing me of just what I was working with and how powerful it could be. And so when I stopped binding it and allowed for myself to play and to trust it, I am grateful for like my connection to spirituality, because while it was such a small, tiny, problematic window into it, it did give me a window into the relationship that we have with the divine. And as I've like healed my relationship to the concept of God, I'm able to like pull from that. But in regards to specifically my body, I think it just was like, oh, this is something that can be wielded, I guess.
Yeah. It's a nice way to answer. But do you feel like, I mean, I'm with you on this concept that I feel like we're all part of the divine, right? And I think we all have the divine within us, in that sense. So it feels like you're following that trait, which is nice to see. So
Yeah. Yeah. You are divine. I am divine. The tree's divine. Like this is consciousness, and consciousness is God. Like get into it, get excited about it, recognize how powerful you are and the access that you have. And when we get out of just the mind and into the body, into the more fabric of embodied consciousness, then we start to really tap into our own magic and our own power, and we're interfacing with the other aspects of God that are also having their unique embodied experience of divinity as a tree or a slug or a jellyfish. Like,
so what do you think what is it about nature that actually makes embodiment feel safer for so many, though? Because I think a lot of people feel the same thing about nature.
I think that it's because of what I was just saying, that it is also embodied consciousness.
Yeah.
It's just in a different body. It's in a tree body, in a rock body. And there's perhaps less pressure to understand what it is to be embodied when you're with these other beings who have been doing it and maybe been doing it a lot longer than you have. There's a kinship, a recognition, a real recognizes real type thing, that when we're spending so much time in manufactured spaces and disenfranchised modalities, that everything feels a little uneasy. Everything feels a little strange. Something's not quite right here. And to be embodied in a place of unease makes you feel uneasy. And rather than recognizing that as data that's informing you that your environment is flawed, we think we're what's flawed. And we're like, oh, like, get me out of this embodied, like, yucky sensation. Like, and you start to think that it's being embodied that's yucky, but it's actually your spaceship is giving you a bunch of data that everything around you is yucky.
Well, the body never lies, right?
It can't.
You can, no, exactly. And I think to the point, I think it's interesting with what you're saying, that I think we feel most honest and true to ourselves when we are in nature, whether it's by the ocean or in the mountains or forest, where we're on a countryside. And at the same time, most people are living in the cities, right, which are manufactured places.
Yes, we are in a strange, twisted little timeline, for sure. Like, it is it is bizarre. Something feels off. We know something feels off. We go to our doctors who are in cahoots with the offness.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, here's something that will make you not notice
Yeah.
this
So you get
very
drugs and you get
honest
drugs
data.
instead, and then you just numb yourself further to some
Totally.
extent. Right? You know, in both here in I'm in Sweden, right? And here they started to prescribe that you need to be more in nature. And I think it actually started a lot in Japan, right? Where, you know, people were prescribed to go out and hug trees, for example.
Forest bathing.
Or yeah, exactly, forest bathing. And I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, that you actually are connecting with nature in that sense, right? Because people are, to your point, getting lost in some way, right?
Mm-hmm. And like the frequency of these forests, the frequency
Yeah.
of being around a bunch of embodied beings that are here for the experience and not trying to resist or change or alter or be in control. Like these trees are not out here being like, I'm going to take over Greenland. You know what I mean? Like these trees are not doing that. They are just interacting with sun and carbon and soil and mycelium. They are doing what they do. Not they, and what they do is providing breath for us, but they're doing it because of their own volition, of their own will. They are literally ripping carbon, metal as fuck, ripping carbon out of the air and yanking it and using that to propel themselves to greater heights. And the byproduct of that is that there's tons of oxygen, but they're just trying to grow big and strong. You know, they're just trying, they're just doing what they do. And so to be around a bunch of beings that are not performing, they're not pretending, they're not confused at what their purpose is. They are like, I am the motherfucking tree out here sequestering carbon and boosting oxygen and digging my roots in and becoming this like, you know, thing to reach through the forest and talk to my friends and be in relationship with the mushrooms. It's like they're not out there confused, and we will if something is vibrating at a high frequency, we are inclined and compelled to match that frequency in a subconscious way that we couldn't alter that if we tried. We are drawn to be pulled to our highest frequency, and we're just hanging out in these low frequency states way too long, and then we get confused.
I can see that for sure. And I think people in general are, the more people I talk to, and I talk to quite a few people around the world now, and I think more, and the one thing that is constant is everybody feels a little bit lost in general. So whether that's in terms of faith or self-belief or self-awareness or self-doubt, or yeah, I think people are just a bit lost in general, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's really indicative of like a loss of hope, a loss of, you know, direction. And I wonder sometimes, like, is it actually that we're lost, or is that we're refusing to see where we're headed because we don't like how it looks?
It might be both, I guess, right? Because I do see that some people, to the point, because they are lost, I think I see, or well, what we can start seeing is more polarity in one way as well, right? That people are looking into these extremist forms because it might feel easier, and you don't have to take accountability yourself.
Well,
To your
I
point
mean,
of
it's
awareness, so if you're not aware about itself, you can just
be rallied.
fall in line, so to speaking, right? Which is a
Yeah.
little complacent, I guess is the right word there, in one way.
Yeah, I think that there's the quest for meaning and for truth requires a lot of energy, requires a lot of accountability, requires a lot of strength.
Yeah.
to really see what we're working with. And I think a lot of people would rather have their heads in the sand and not really think too much about what is going on. But then they still want to feel a part of something. And so then there's like, well, don't you worry about figuring out yourself. Here we are, the 2-for-1 special. We've got really impassioned, like hateful options for you. You just, for the low price of never having to assess it for yourself, pre-packaged, pre-bottled, just take this fucking drink and then you're set. And like,
I don't question anything, right? So.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, we're doing it with our food, we're doing it with our media, we're doing it, like why not just do it with your personal values and life mission as well? Pre-packaged.
Yeah, it was actually quite interesting. I was last week I was talking to a sexologist, and he gave up an example of one of his clients who, and he apparently have a lot of clients like this, right? And I think the funny thing with this is this woman, a lot of women now, they have these long checklists with a partner, what they're looking for in a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And she was discarding a guy because he had the wrong brand of shoes.
Wrong brand of shoes.
Yeah, but not thinking about, hey, what your values are as a person, right? And then the other thing he actually said was that they're looking for an instant click in the first meeting when you meet somebody for the first time. That you should feel everything you have to feel. You have to feel the first time you meet someone, which is quite unrealistic, right? If you think about it.
I mean, I have had that experience multiple times in my life, and the only time I seem to have that instant every part of me clicks is because I feel like I'm being lured there to do the most intense self-work available to me. And the only time it's like every single thing comes online for me, it's because it's like, all right, this is about to wreck you. And I'm like,
yeah.
worth it for the feeling. And it's like, I feel like that's like the I don't know, like
yeah. From my own experience through that as well, I think when you go through something like that, it sort of mirrors you instead. I mean, it will trigger you so much on the other way around that it actually shows you where you need to heal a lot more than anything else.
Oh my goodness, yes. There's like one guy that makes me feel that way, and I feel like I have to confront every like part of myself that I'm like, that's a manageable amount of healed, like I know I'm not all the way there yet, but like I'm like good enough. That's a passing grade with the person that activates every part of me. I am like, I feel like it's my first time ever addressing my anxious attachment with this person. And I'm like, girl, I've been doing this for years. Like, I'm normally okay with this.
But yeah, even though you are, I mean, I've done work with that too. And I think still when you do that, you will still end up in places, the same things will trigger you again and again, right? It just will give you it from a different lens, right? From a slightly different lens. And then you start looking at it, and then you need to, it's the same trigger, but I'm looking at it slightly differently now. But you learn from that layer as well, so to speaking, right?
Totally. Oh yeah, no, I expect my anxious attachment to be a lifelong companion that I get to attack from every which angle. But I'm just so surprised at like how intense it is with that person that makes me, that I would associate that like the true love feeling with. I'm like, why? I don't know. It just seems like that instant click is often, it feels like it's bait for you to do some really intense, like kind of the here's your reward. If you'll do the most intense self-work of your life, you get to have this really amazing feeling. Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, I know, but it's sort of the other way you can look at that as well, I think, is even though the amount of self-work you do with yourself, I think it's only in a long-term relationship you can truly see how far you come yourself, right? In one way. Because that's when you will get tested like that, right?
Hmm. To be honest with you, I have never been in a relationship for longer than 3 years. So I don't know if I've had anything that would count as a long-term relationship. Um,
Yeah, I had one for over 20 years. So
yeah, you mentioned that. I can't even imagine doing that much life with someone. The amount of change that I've gone through in even just 10 years, like what? 20 years worth of evolving and trying to stay on the same page with someone and support their evolving, even though part of what they were became structural in your psyche, whether you intended for it to be or not. Like, woof.
yeah, you can look at it that way, but you can also have another way to look at it, right? That let's say you have a very long-term relationship, and you can say that you would actually go through different relationships.
Mm.
So if you think about it, that when you meet somebody and then you have the first phase of a few years, that's the
Hmm.
first relationship. But then it dies because you will, I mean, it always goes up and down, right? A relationship will always go up and down. You'll get to a point when you can say, fine, that part of me is now done with this relationship. And then you're going into a new relationship. It might be with the same person or it might be with a new person. But when you then
Mm.
go into that, you decide for yourself that, hey, I'm going to go into a new relationship with you again, and we're going to do it from a different angle. But it requires a lot of good communication both
Hmm.
ways, and that you understand each other in that sense, right?
I
It's
like
just a
that.
different way. It's just a different way to look at it because then, if you think about how, I mean, if I look back at my long-term relationship I had with my ex-wife, it was, we were quite young when we met, and I think in one way, emotionally, we stopped evolving in our communication in that age, even though we grew older and we raised kids and build careers. But as a couple, we were sort of stuck in one way. We did not invest in that in ourselves to some
Hmm.
extent. And ultimately, that made us grow apart. And when you don't communicate like that, I think unfortunately that might be something that happens in a relationship.
Totally. And then it's like, uh, yeah, trying to meet them again without holding on to all of the like outdated
Yeah.
hopes or disappointments.
So you mentioned love, the true love here for a moment. So what does love mean to you?
What does love mean to me? Oh my goodness. Wow. What does love mean to me? I mean, there's so many different kinds of love.
There is.
Sometimes love to me means a like giddy activation throughout my body. And that can happen with like a person or a really good meal. Like it's something that like turns me on, like quite
Mhm.
literally, like turns on my chakra starts spinning, my blood like
Goes
I'm
on.
turned on. Then there's like unconditional love, which um I think I heard someone say this recently and it was so beautiful. And I think it's so accurate that it's being able to hold the gratitude and the grief simultaneously, the like deep understanding and recognition that anything that we have, we will innately lose. And even as you're having the best moment of your life, it is slipping into memory even as you're experiencing it. And knowing that and holding that like gratitude, I can't believe I get to have this, and also I no longer get to have this, whether that's for life or a person, or a chapter in your story,
Mhm.
like holding that like giant circumference of gratitude and grief, um I would say is like unconditional love. And then like capital L love that I would put as the same as God or truth. Um, I would describe as the fabric of connection that holds and responds and is deeply invested in the experience of consciousness, and I would describe it almost like as a fabric that's like holding everything together. Yeah, and then the true love, I guess, that I am aforementioned of, that is certainly romantic-y slanted, I think is a doorway.
It's a beautiful way to look at it. I normally take the stance of actually love is also a choice you make. You can make that choice every day. To some extent, particularly when you're with a person, you can choose to love that person every day. So I would choose to love you every day, and then that's an active choice you make, and then you're much more in the present of making that choice as well when you do.
Yeah.
And from my experience, I think a lot of people are taking each other for granted, and then when you do that, you don't make that choice. You just assume. And when you assume, things can go very astray.
Absolutely. I think that there is a giant lack of communication on like needs and exchange. I think in our like pre-call, I was talking about connection and how it's like the point where I end and something else begins. And there's like an exchange that's happening there. And there's a lack of awareness of if that exchange is benefiting or harming us, because we are in a society that is encouraging numbness at all times.
And complacency.
Yeah. And so it's like with relationships, there is like a skewed thought that like, oh, I just need to unconditionally love this person. I need to give more than I take, like whatever. But then we're not being clear about what it is that we need, because we don't want to seem needy. So we don't want to express the fact that I actually cannot do everything on my own. And we're not honest about how we can show up and what our capacity is. And so we end up in these agreements, these unspoken agreements where there's a ton of assumption, where we think that someone will show up for us the way that we would show up for them. And then we're disappointed because they didn't show up for us in that way. Meanwhile, they're showing up for you in the way that they want you to show up for them, and feeling drained because I keep doing the dishes for you every single night. And you're like, man, I don't even care about that. I don't even notice that you do that, because it doesn't mean anything to me. And it's like, I've slaved away every day for 35 years doing these dishes for you. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, what about like kissing my forehead before I go to bed? Because that's like what actually makes me feel loved. And that's what actually, makes the little kid inside of me feel safe. And what I'm looking for in this relationship is for the little kid inside of me to feel safe, with you. And you never do that. You're just like handling chores. And so I know that like there's, the love languages are kind of outdated, but there's so much power in really understanding your needs and your capacity, and making a flexible, evolving, dynamic outline for what the exchange can be.
I agree completely in that. I think you almost need a driver license, I think, to be in a relationship.
I've got 46 hours behind the wheel. I'm ready.
I mean, you're going to crash and burn so many times in that case, right? So that's enough. That might hurt.
Totally.
No, this is a fun conversation. No, but I mean, another way to look at love, I think I think you said it beautifully in one way. There are different types of love, right? And there's a love you're born into, and there's love you can choose, like your friends and the things and experiences that you have, right? And the romantic love, but one love that actually goes back to, I think, what we've been touching on here a bit is self-love. And I think a lot of people are struggling with self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the other loves will not be as strong.
As a whole, I think that humans are having a net negative impact on their environment, on their relationships, like that we're doing things, and by negative I mean that like unsustainable, that we're like taking more than we give. That's what I mean by negative. And so I think that there's like a collective subconscious understanding that like this is a problem, and every choice that I make seems to be contributing to this problem. Even if I'm trying to make better choices, it's like it is so wrapped in the fiber of every single thing that you do. Like there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. So there's no thing that you can eat. There's no thing that you can wear. There's no thing that you can't use a phone. You can't use these computers. You can't have a conversation. You can't be using the headphones that you're listening to without like some really fucked up shit happened for that to be your experience.
Yeah.
I lived in America where the land I stand on was ripped away from one people's and built on the backs of another so that my white ass can stand here and like have a nice time. So I think that there's like some deep intrinsic cognitive dissonance of self-love because of the fact that it is hard to feel, to consciously, genuinely, observantly be like, I did a good job being a human today.
It's a work in itself, right? But I think you at least need to accept yourself somewhat, right? I don't think necessarily, maybe you don't have to love yourself fully, but as long as you can start accepting yourself,
exactly,
then you can show up better in a relationship.
We're skipping too far ahead. We're at the point where we're like, man, everybody needs to have self-love. And I'm like, maybe first we should just take an honest assessment of ourselves and be willing to like face the music of what we are.
Yeah.
With grace and compassion, because none of us we hopped in on a ride that was being fueled by some fucked up shit heading to a fucked up destination, and we popped in and it's like, okay, I won't take ownership of this car that I'm in because I didn't choose to be like I wasn't way back here making that decision, so I can't take ownership for the things that I didn't do, and I won't do that. But I still need to like face and acknowledge that it is problematic, that it is heading to a dangerous place, and that I am participating in the perpetuation of it. And like just starting there and having a graceful, compassionate, forgiving lens, I think is like the starting point. And then maybe we can get to genuine love of the self that
you can progress there, right?
Yes.
You can progress there. So ultimately, I think people, they just want to be chosen, right? That's the key thing in one way. If you think about why we're doing what we're doing, we want to be loved and chosen by someone, whether it's a love partner, a romantic partner, or even friends or whatever it might be, right? There's a need for people to just be feeling part of a community in one way, right? And feel appreciated there. I mean, we're cave people, right? I mean, we were cavemen back in the days. We were living in groups and we were dependent on each other, right?
Yeah, community is a verb where you are engaged with understanding what it is that you offer and being appreciated for showing up and giving it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like whether it's with romance or friends or community or your job, your work, like that is like anchored into like, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. Here I go, embodying that and showing it and being that. And look, the people love it. Like then we're like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm in. Like this is fueling me.
It's beautiful. When you look at it like that, I think it's beautiful. You mentioned something before about, the holding space and how you can hold that a bit more. So how do you hold space without leading someone away from themselves?
Hmm. I think time. Just giving people
Time?
time. Yeah, I think that with my work, most photographers are charging by the hour, or like the shoots have a specific, you've got 2 hours. And that always like really stressed me out, the concept of that. Like, okay, like it felt very like, lights, camera, action, be sexy. Like it seemed like kind of a rush. And I think even just knowing like you can take as much time as you need, um, it really helps somebody not feel rushed, not feel pressured, and take the journey. So the space that I hold is literally time. Um,
Yeah.
to and then there's bits of encouragement, and there's bits of suggestions and invitations for ways to access them, their body, and their sensation, and anchoring through sensation. I mean, I could tell the listeners right now, like wiggle your toes, like right now. And like just that little wiggle, like brings presence to yourself
It does
and
indeed.
your
Yeah.
edges. And so it doesn't take much to bring someone back into their body. But I think, yeah, time is how you make sure they don't rush it.
Do you
And I
feel like,
think that could be true, like with like even in sex, like we talk about sex, or
yeah,
if I feel like a guy's going down on me and I've got to like, oh my goodness, I don't want him to like, I did this a lot when I was a kid, like being like, oh my goodness, like I would hate for him to feel like he's down there forever. And what if he's getting tired and does he even want to be there? And then I'm like trying to make myself come faster, and whoo, my goodness, nobody's having fun then. Versus like, I remember the first guy that was like, started going down to me and just looks up and he's like, I could be down here all day. And I said, my whole self went whoosh. Okay, tight.
and you can just enjoy there and then be in the moment. And I think for me, I think a lot of people, to your point, and I think you were probably doing that yourself, that you were looking to perform, right? That you needed to achieve climax and you wanted the guy to climax as well, instead of actually just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And like now the orgasm is not
Goal.
the destination,
Yeah.
like I feel like the first level of it was just like not feeling rushed, but I still felt destination oriented. So it
Hmm.
was like I still was trying to head somewhere, but I was just trying to slow my pacing to get there. And these days I feel more like I don't know where we're going, but we're gonna have a good time.
So, but then just on that though, when you do orgasm today, do you feel like you have better orgasms now than you had before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that there's like um I was really young when I heard so much messaging about like it's so annoying how hard it is to make girls come. And so I set out as like a 16-year-old, like very 15, 16-year-old. I was like, I'm going to be the easiest girl to make come in the world. And I was like, I can come very, or not in the world, but I can come very easily. But that happened by really creating like a mega highway internally of like hyper fixating sensation on this is yeah very but on my clit, like to like keep like any energy that was building in my body, I just like streamlined it to the most sensitive spot so that I could come. And when I have an approach where it's more like curiosity based and less directional, it's like more of my body is able to orgasm. So it doesn't feel like I'm coming from like this like tiny little like quarter-sized aspect of my body, but it's like, oh my goodness, I'm coming with my knees and my elbows.
It's more like a body orgasm in that sense, right? And I think, don't you think? Well, what I can see is I think a lot of women are just focused on the clitoris orgasm, if you will, and there are so many other ways you can come as a woman, right? Which for a guy is quite amazing too. And I think a guys actually can also come in so many other ways that I think a lot of guys are maybe hopefully now starting to explore as well, right? But it's not just about the ejaculation and the classic orgasm in that sense, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think I really started thinking of sex more as this like way of creating openness in the body. Like, or not sex, but intimacy. And like just bringing everything online. There's just so many parts of our body that like, when was the last time you like thought about like your like right like back, like the right lower back, that like little like part of skin there, it's like you're not like thinking about that part of your body is not being used for most of us, and so it's just kind of like on standby, like sleeping. And so when you like intentionally awaken the body and like allow more and more of it to come online, like that's the real gift that we can do for each other. And the whole body is an erogenous zone if you take the time to turn it on. And it's really fun. I really enjoy giving head, and I oftentimes am like starting at the toes. Like I'm gonna slowly turn on like from the toes all the way up the legs, like do 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 do, and like bringing sensation, bringing blood flow, bringing awareness, like fluctuating with how much pressure I'm using, so that it's like creating like curiosity within their body. And then you like kind of like creep it, and then you're like bringing, I would be horrified if a man just like jumps down directly on my clitoris to like get it popping. I'm like, wow, like fucking scared me. And yet I think so many women give head by just like attacking the shaft. And it's like, okay, like open him up, like spread his legs open, like lick him like on like the inner thigh zones, and like let that whole thing come online. And I had this guy once, I gave him that for his birthday. He was like, I think you just changed how much sensation I'm going to have on the lower half of my body for the rest of my life. Like just like bringing that much awareness and taking the time to turn all of that on. And then when the ejaculation does happen, it has all of this, both like energetic and blood zones that are like loosened and opened, and the fascia, where that like pleasure is able to like ripple through all of these zones that had you just gone straight for the goods, there would have been blocks along the way. And so that sensation wouldn't have been able to cascade throughout the body with the same
power. Energy.
Yes.
Yeah, you can only relate to that. And it's the sensation there is quite amazing when you go through that as a guy.
And a woman, for listeners,
and a woman. You give the
listeners everywhere. Y'all need to spend a good 5 to 25 minutes, minimum of 5 minutes, like spending time imagining, massaging, and like thinking about everywhere that you touch before you get to the genitalia is the parts of the body that get to experience the orgasm afterwards. So give your partner the experience of having a full body orgasm by opening their body before you make them come.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can only agree with what you're saying. And I think just taking time and slowing down, I think is one of the most important things when you have sex in a good way with a partner in that sense.
Yes.
So it's really, it really is. It really is a nice thing to see and hear you
Yes.
talk about it. So, what do you what do you feel changes though if when pleasure is no longer something to earn? What do you what do you think changes then in a
Mm.
relationship?
I mean, I definitely moved through the world with uh understanding pleasure as both like um something that like creates like direction for me, but also as like an alchemizing power.
Mm,
And so I think that there's a lot of emphasis on like working hard and doing a lot, and very little emphasis on enjoying yourself and slowing down. And I think that life is actually quite pleasurable at a slower pace, that we're able to like soak things in a little deeper and just like, oh, like don't forget to just like take like a really big breath. Like, wow. Like, when was the last time you really felt like a breath or really felt like the softness of your clothes? Like, is that something that you're like intentionally cultivating for yourself? Because the more, not to become like super dopamine or pleasure obsessed, but like it's easier to be embodied when you like what you feel.
of course.
And so, the amount of people out here with these fluorescent lights in their house, I'm like, goodness gracious, what is happening? Your eyes like that? Do you not feel like you're about to be like, this is clinical? This is scary movie. This is a
Yeah,
hurts.
I know. I always call that acne lights, right? So I hate
Bro,
those.
they're so horrific. And it's like all these things are like low grade. I feel like it's affecting everyone. The people who don't know that they're being affected by it are just desensitized. And then those of us who are moving through the world with a lot more softness are immediately walking into a space where like, this smells weird, this looks weird, this is like chaotic, whatever. It hurts the body. And some of us are just the what is it, the canary in the
Yeah,
mine
in the
trying
mines
to
that yes, starts falling over.
yeah. So I think that realizing like you're creating your world around you, you have so much power over your environment, and creating it to be more pleasurable and more enjoyable starts to reset your baseline for goodness
Mm,
and softening and allowing. And I think that all of us need a little more help with bringing the feminine online. The feminine is incredibly receptive. And I think that pleasure is how we learn that receptivity. And when you become like a true master of that, it's like you're able to receive anything and like transmute it and allow it to be exactly what it is and allow it to feel good for sensation's sake.
yeah.
So that's like next level is like when we're able to like, oh, that was like really harsh and disgusting, and like how beautiful that I got to receive that. Um,
And I like that. I mean, the name of this show 34 is really coming from 3 as the feminine energy number, right? With creativity, body, and receptivity, as you mentioned, and 4 being more the masculine energy with structure, holding, direction. And I think the
mhm,
combination here together is really the balance between feminine and masculine in sexual presence, right? That's the whole
mhm.
purpose with it. So,
Yeah. And we
yeah,
all are like have both of these energies, and it's like it becomes so powerful when you know how to hold them both and know how and can move between them both with ease, recognizing each moment calls for
yeah,
a different amount of receptivity and action.
yeah, for sure. And I think I mean what I see today though is in a lot of women today are very much in their masculine because they are performing so much at work and, living in a man's world, if you will, that they are performing so much. That I think they sometimes lose touch with how to be in their feminine. And I think guys are also not really there, and maybe not fully there about how to be accepting their feminine within them as well, right?
Yeah, the feminine is certainly suppressed greatly.
But what you actually just described what you described with the guy how you're pleasuring a guy like that, I think the guy is definitely in his feminine in that sense, right? That is truly about receptivity and really surrendering into it and being there in the present, right? That's truly being in the feminine when you're there, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's really scary. As a female bodied person, I think that like that surrendered state feels really scary because you are surrendering control. And control, while it has never done nothing for us except for giving us a crick in our necks, does come with this like facade of safety.
Yeah.
And we want to be safe. And
both emotionally and physically, right?
Emotionally, physically, spiritually.
Yeah.
And then there's just like a deep recognition that like there is no such thing as safety. There is no such thing as a guarantee. There is no such thing as like a win-win, like a can't lose situation. Like we're on the line to figure out what it is to exist, to understand the edges of our capacity. And so I don't know, it's like to release that need for control, that need to understand and trust that that we do know what to do in our bodies, in our innate wisdom, our connection to source. Like when we've got all of that online, like we know how to move through the world in a way that doesn't need circumstances to be a certain way or outcomes to go a certain way, but in this way that it's like, wow, I'm dancing with this thing, and I see it. Oh, wait, that's different than I thought it was going to look. Whoop. So now I'm different than I thought it was going to look, and you're just like playing with it and dancing with it, and like you don't get to know all the answers. And so, yeah, I feel like the feminine is desperately like seeking, like, can you let me know I'm safe so that I can relax? And it's like, I don't know, I think that's my growth edge right now, is like recognizing like you're not safe and you can still relax.
Yeah. And how do you do that though? If you're not safe?
Girl, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. That's my growth edge. I'm trying. I think that there's something about recognizing that this body, this ego, this psyche, this particular configuration that I am cosplaying as is only that. And so no matter what happens to this body and this psyche and this ego, no matter if it's incredibly painful or incredibly humiliating or incredibly exhilarating, no matter what it is, it's just one, my configuration is nothing more than a costume that the grander sense of God and consciousness is wearing. And so I cannot lose what I am in a true sense of it. I can only lose it like a jacket, and recognizing like my whole consciousness, my whole understanding of Ren Morrow, the personality, the fae-like creature who's running around like frolicking and does all these things and loves these people and means these things to these people, you know, that thing is just being worn by God like an outfit.
Yeah.
And so I could lose the outfit, but I don't lose what I am. And I think that if I could get myself fully anchored into that, then there could be a lot more surrender, because it wouldn't matter what happened to my ego or what happened to my body. I would still be what I am.
Yeah. So okay, so fine, you were exploring now how you can relax by still not feeling safe. But I think one thing here though is sort of trust. I think is one other thing that is quite important in a relationship with someone, right? So for you, what tells you that trust has arrived, even if nobody names it between you two, so speaking?
Man, I go careening off the cliff with lovers oftentimes. I will trust way too much, way too fast. Um,
So you
so
crash and burn quite a bit.
I have crashed and burned quite a bit. But I think that I'm now getting to the point where I'm open to trust taking time to build. I think that like what I was describing, the like recognizing I'm something bigger than my ego and my body, makes it to where like I'm like pretty fearless when it comes to loving people, and I'm like, okay, we do it. We're loving each other now, and not giving time for things to take time, like for it to be built. But I think that comes a bit from just like trust in myself, trust in my own resiliency, trust in my own, like, this person could do whatever they wanted to me, and it might really, really hurt, but I know that I'll be me on the other side of it. So yeah, I think just harnessing my own expectations around that might be helpful, but I don't mind the fact that I trust easy, because ultimately, like, I don't have anything to lose. Did
Do
that
you
answer
think
your
it?
question?
Yeah, it does indeed. So, but do you also think it's important to be able to set boundaries in a relationship?
Yes. Yes. I think this most recent relationship that I was in really made me aware of like understanding the exchange, understanding like that I can't, like, I really need to trust in my intuition. Like I cannot ever, I was like, I knew I needed to like slow the pacing, and he got insecure about that. And I was like, okay, well, did the very good female thing where it was like, my truth made you uncomfortable. So let me just pocket that, and I'll hold your discomfort, and I'll change my behavior so that your discomfort gets addressed while my truth gets thrown out the window. It's like, okay, that we can never do that again, ever. That shit does not work. And then I'm out here, you know, knowing that I could have done something different. And it's like, I'm okay with things crashing and burning as long as I know that I did what I needed to do and I was who I wanted to be. And if I was true to myself and it doesn't work out, then that's like, okay, well, I did me, rather than like, well, I ignored my feelings, ignored my truth, compromised to suit his insecurities, and now we're fucked. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't feel correct. That just leaves me with all these like unanswered like what ifs, you know?
It's not very truthful in that sense, right? To yourself in that sense.
Yeah. So so I do think that there's like boundaries as far as that is concerned. I also think that like it's okay to hold the hope of what you think someone is and how they will be, and hold that hope while allowing reality to catch up in its own time, and be able to compare those two things and see, keep your hopes in check by allowing the reality to like match or not match. Because I don't know, at least at this point in my life, I don't think that I can completely turn off the part of me that hopes and dreams and has some manner of like kind of their expectations, but they're like from a rose-colored place. And so just like holding myself precious, holding the like inner parts of myself like as the tender, precious things that they are, and then just like allowing reality to prove that we're aligned here.
That's beautiful what you're saying. So when we think about your upbringing and the way you grew up and the journey you've been on, and I've been talking to a lot of women on this show, and one theme that I think has been quite sort of prevailing has been around shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both men and women do feel shame from my point of view, but I think women particularly, I think, live with it in a different way, I guess. So for you, how does shame show up in the body, and before it even becomes a story, if you will, right? Is that something you relate to?
The sensation of shame, the way I describe the sensation of shame, is a flower trying to return to a bud.
Reverse.
It feels like collapsing like up into oneself. It feels like, oh, like I put myself out here and I'm glorious and I'm beautiful and I want to play with the sun and be smelled. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I'm actually a different color than I thought I would be. And I don't think I smell as good as I thought I would. And that bee didn't even like me. And it's like, what? And like try to like pull yourself like in. And I clock that sensation in my body all the time. I'm like, what? Why are we feeling shame? Was it, are we like, are we scared that we're being rejected? Are we scared that that's not going to land well? Did we, like I'll say something to someone sometimes and then I'll be like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have said that. Like, especially over text, where you like can't get that immediate feedback and you're just like, oh my goodness, like I wish I wouldn't have said that. And it's like, hold on, what are you like afraid of?
But then you're overthinking as well then if you do that too.
Well, we'd be doing everything to its fullest extent.
To the fullest extent. And you did mention that you're also an anxious attachment, so it sort of marries together.
Buddy. Yeah. I'm like, why shouldn't I let that big? And it's like, it's an opportunity for self-soothing every time. Like if I feel my heart tries to like curl inward and I try, before I even like clock the story around it, I feel that like trying to go back within myself and take what I put out and put it back in. And it's just like, wait, hold on. Like, what are you afraid of? What are you actually afraid of? Are you afraid that it'll make you unlovable? Because those who are meant to love you are just going to be more and more excited by what you put out. There's no reason to fear something that you put out. Are you super concerned with this particular person, like caring about that? Like, why are we putting so much emphasis on what that person thinks about you rather than like recognizing, like when you're with the right people, it's almost like you can do no wrong. Like they are seeing you in a good light, like with my good friends, I say things that they're like, what? But they know me, and they want me to be lovable. And so they love me with ease no matter what I say. And it's like,
and there's an acceptance there as well then.
Totally. And so I think that with shame, just like, it's so potent. It's such a low frequency. It can leave you like absolutely debilitated. And so I just try to catch it as soon as I can. And maybe I can't get myself all the way fully out to like blossom mode, but I can at least not like be like succumbed and just be like, okay, hold on. Like, I literally will imagine the sensation of my heart like returning outward, returning to its like sense of I am beautiful, I am relevant, I am worth shining. What I have in my heart is radiant and casts light on the world and is imperative that it is shared. And those who will receive it, and those who can't cannot. And it is not my responsibility for what someone does with the light. It is my responsibility to keep the light on. And so just like, whoop.
So what do you think most women need to unlearn before they can receive pleasure, particularly if they're coming from a environment where they've been feeling shame a lot? Based on your own journey as well.
I feel like it doesn't all get unraveled in a day. And so microdosing pleasure, finding like little, like when I closed my eyes in response to that question, I just saw fingertips sliding across sheets. And I imagine, do you love your bed sheets? Like, I love my bed sheets. They're these bamboo, super silky. They like somehow are both silky, but almost feel like cottony at the same time. I don't understand it. They're like cozy and sleek. I don't get it. It's masterful. And every night and every morning, I end and begin my day with a sleek, silky little moment of like, it feels good to be here. And I think that like giving yourself permission to feel good in whatever tiny little way you get, really locking into the smell of your coffee, like putting on a candle, you like the smell of it.
Small sensations.
Sensations. Yeah. Sensation is the portal to pleasure always.
Yeah.
And so giving yourself that and allowing it to feel good to be within your body it doesn't address the shame head on, but the feminine approach doesn't address anything head on. No. It's not really about like being in conflict with like, I need my shame to go away, so now I'm going to do this. It's like circumnavigate it, like make it like where it's like, oh, like, wow, that feels really good. Like, I like how that feels. And trying to use that pleasure as a entry point to invite more and more sensation into your body. And then just like recognizing the places that make you feel shame and being really tender with yourself there and trying to like talk to yourself about it and understand where it's coming from and why. And, yeah, I don't know if there's if I have a specific formula as much as it's just like use the body, find the pleasure, and spend time in nature, like spend time places where there is no messaging that is trying to make you feel like shit about yourself. Because that is definitely feeding the beast. All the programming that is trying to make you feel bad so that you are a better consumer. Like get away from that, detox from that, go places where nobody can tell you that your skin is too bumpy. Try to look at one of these trees with all their bumps and be like, have a bump off with a tree. The tree wins. You're actually smooth as a baby.
And be more present, I think, in the moment is key there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember the first, well, you mentioned trees now again. So do you remember the first moment when being seen outdoors felt like relief rather than exposure?
I mean, I loved trees all growing up. I would climb all the trees all the time, like 80-foot trees. I would
That's
climb to
high.
the top. So I feel like trees have always been kind of like a safe place. I think that, yeah, I don't have a specific instance. I think it's relational. I don't think I just like went to the woods one day and then like didn't feel anything anymore. It was like didn't feel any like exposed anymore. It was like just kind of I spent a lot of time out there, and every time just being a body existing as an animal in an animal-y place with other animals and other beings. Like it wasn't like a specific place or a specific instance as it was just like a cumulative cumulative effect of that relationship of like, oh, I don't need to be anything other than me here. Oh, look, I still don't need to be anything other than me. Wow, still just me here, and then suddenly it was like, wow, I don't even think about it. Strip the clothes, let's go. It's like second nature, first nature, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think being being that naked in nature, I think is it's quite an awesome experience when you do it, right? I mean, I think I guess it's also part of the work you do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, not enough people have had their labias in the breeze, and I think it shows.
Yeah,
Air,
maybe they
girl.
try with a hairdryer. I don't know.
Oh my God. Roasty toasty.
Yeah.
Terrible. That sounds terrible. That reminds me of like a blowtorch effect.
Yeah. Ooh, that hurts. So, but how has your work though? How has it changed your own relationship with your body?
Um, I feel a lot more accountable to practice what I preach, for sure. I feel a lot more like because I am still guilty. I am
Yeah.
not unscathed by this messaging that has me very aware that I am aging, that I am not going to Pilates 5 days a week. Like, I know, and so it's like when I catch myself judging and thinking I would be happier if I was fitter or, be more lovable if I had a perkier butt, or that shouldn't wear this outfit because it doesn't make me look as flattering as I could, and flattering is just code word for skinny. I am like, I kind of like, oh girl, how you gonna give somebody something you can't give yourself? And I'm just like, just have to like kind of, oh right. I am, who gave me this thought? Who gave me this thought? Where is this thought coming from? Why would God embodied experiencing a ride through the cosmos through a vessel of any kind have anything but fucking hallelujahs for the opportunity to experience existence?
I think we're
There,
back to that. It's also back to that the thing you mentioned here about self-acceptance and self-love, right? So
yes,
it goes
yes.
back to that. That's beautiful. So what does home feel like in the body though today compared to earlier in your life?
Hmm.
Has there been a change?
I think that feeling at home in my body is, I would describe it more like feeling like I belong inside of my body.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that I spent, I had a pretty like traumatic childhood as far as like assorted styles of abuse. And I think that when that sort of thing happens, we can actually get jostled like outside of our body. Like our consciousness can kind of like, woof, like, it's like kind of like hovering nearby. Um, and so through all of this process, through also like doing work with energy healers, like pulling my consciousness like into myself, uh, and not being afraid of what it feels like to be in here. I think like we jump out of it because we're like, ah, I don't want to know how much I feel fear. I don't want to I feel pain, you know, like we dissociate because it's like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm being, you know, something really bad is happening to my body and I don't want to actually have to experience it. So I'll leave my body so my body has to encounter it, but I don't actually have to know. Um and like I think it feels like a commitment to staying inside and experiencing whatever it is, um, without needing to flee. I think
Okay.
like that's, yeah.
And that's also accepting in one way.
Yeah, it's definitely accepting it and I almost embracing it, I would say, even more than
Yeah.
accepting is like,
Even more so.
yeah, I don't have to we mentioned earlier, like you either feel or you don't feel. You
Yeah.
don't get to pick and choose what you feel. And I would rather have a life that knows highs and lows and knows pain and joy than a body that cannot be moved.
Mm.
And there's something to be said about like also being able to like be in a meditative state and watch it, you know, without getting too attached to any of the emotions. But like you really start to tap into something powerful when you can go in and out of that, when you can like be able to feel all of the things, but then not let them control how you behave. Like now we're really somewhere powerful. Like, oh, you're in full feeling of your experience and yet not letting those waves alter where you go. Like the strength of that, like that to me is holding the masculine and the feminine at the same time.
Mm.
I have a container that knows my purpose, knows my direction, chooses where I walk with conscious, aligned integrity. And everything that I feel, everything that I encounter, everything that moves me, that wants to be shaped and felt and explored and whatever resides inside of that and is my own cosmos of churning without like knocking the ship off course.
Yeah, it's so beautiful what you're saying. So, so if someone is listening now, man or woman, and they feel disconnected from their body right now, what would you want them to remember from this conversation?
Hmm. Well, firstly, I get it. It is no easy task to be bound to something that has so much feeling. It is overwhelming. And it makes sense to me that you would choose to turn off the noise by vacating the premises of your body. Yet it is always a gracious host for your consciousness to reside in once again. It wants to be in relationship with you. You and your body together have the opportunity to be an unstoppable team of experience and purpose and vitality. And it is your lifelong friend. And friendships take work and take listening and respecting and acknowledging and honoring. And if you feel like you're on bad terms and you haven't been taking care of it and it's cranky at you, like, it really doesn't take much to rebuild the bridge. Y'all were made for each other.
Yeah.
So there is no rush, and yet you are only wasting your own time, your very, very limited, precious time that you have to experience life at full capacity, and you cannot do that without your body. And so I hope that you begin that journey home, and that's it.
So beautiful, Wren. Really so beautiful. So, Wren, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. This went so many places that I didn't expect to go, and was so delighted to find us there.
Lovely. Thank you. So Wren has an amazing presence, gentleness, and she reminds us that the body is not a problem to solve, but a place to return to. And for those listening, nothing you heard today is something to strive for. It's an invitation to soften. And intimacy is not something we achieve. It's something we allow when safety arrives and you can be truthful to yourself and become aware of yourself. This has been 34O. Until the next time, take care of the body that carries you. Stay open, stay honest, and stay human.